In this chapter and first lesson, we're going to look at something called Xrefs. Now, you might be wondering what an Xref is if you haven't heard of it. Basically, an Xref is just a standard AutoCAD drawing. It's not that you've done anything to it, it's just a way of inserting it into another drawing, basically. So you use it as a reference. So you might be wondering why you might use it and how you might use it. Well, here we have a ground floor plan. And as you can see, there's stairs, so this would be going up to a first floor plan. Now if we wanted to draw our first floor plan, we could draw it at the side here if we wanted to the right hand side of our ground floor plan, and which means we could line up all the walls perfectly horizontally. But what if we wanted to line up the stairs and all the other walls vertically? We'd have to move after we've drawn it all horizontally, we'd have to move the whole lot down below, which is messy, and if we made a mistake or want to edit something, we'd have to move it backwards and forwards, and it'd just be messy and not very accurate and quite time consuming. Another way you think you could do it would be just to draw directly over the top of the ground floor plan, which I mean is possible, but then you're going to have all your lines mixed up together, so you're not going to necessarily know which is the first floor plan or the ground floor plan. I mean, you could organize it using layers, but then again that would be time consuming and quite messy. So basically there's something called Xrefs. So what we'll do is we'll type XR, which is to bring up the Xref menu, and as you can see we have this little dialog that pops up here, and at the top left there's a drop down box and it says attach. Well, there's all these different things you can attach. We want to attach a DWG, which is a AutoCAD drawing, and what we're going to do is we're going to attach. I've already got a drawing ready to go of the first floor plan. Now we've selected our file. There's a few things in here that it's going to ask us. Do we want to specify untick the insertion point, and we'll just click OK. We'll talk about this stuff later. And as you can see, a very sort of lightly greyed area that sort of is the first floor plan, and that's overlaid directly over our ground floor plan. And what that means is we can now, well, we can send it to back too. We'll just order it, draw order back, so we can see our lines. See that line there is actually our ground floor plan, and we can edit all that straight over the top of this first floor plan. And as you can see, when I select it, it selects the whole object, which means I can, well, if I wanted to, I could move the whole thing right out of the way, and that's what we have basically. As you can see, it's slightly highlighted, and yeah, so basically it's an overlay. It's all it is. It's something that you sort of can place over the top or the bottom of a floor plan, and that way you've got the walls intact, and you can draw in all your new walls and that might not line up with the other ones, and it means that you can have it right over the top, and it's not going to mess up all your other line work. Let's put it back to where it was. So that's basics of what it is. There's not much more to it. There's a couple of different methods of attaching an Xref though to a drawing, which we'll look at. It's not too complicated, I don't think. So let's select our thing, and we'll go back over here to our window, and I'm going to pull this up a bit. As you can see here at the moment, it says the type that we've attached this to is attached. There's two you can choose. You can either attach a Xref via the attach or the overlay. When we attach something, if I now save this drawing and then I Xref this drawing into another drawing, it means that not only will it bring in all the line work from this current drawing, but it will bring in any Xrefs that are attached, which is what this would happen because this is attached. If I change this to overlay, save this drawing, then Xref this drawing into another drawing, this Xref wouldn't come with it because it's only used as an overlay, which means it's only referenced in this particular drawing. So it doesn't matter if I Xref this drawing to another one, it'll only turn up here. You can change it, as I've shown here, between the two. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at that. We're going to leave this Xref in here, we're going to save, and we're going to create a new drawing. Okay, now we're gonna bring up Xref, we're gonna attach, and we're gonna attach that ground floor plan that we just had before with the line work. Oop, select OK, and click OK. Let's ignore that. Xref, sorry, zoom extents. Now, as you can see, even though if I flick back to that other drawing, even though we have this other Xref in the drawing, when I go back to the new drawing, it hasn't come through. So I'll go back to this drawing, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that Xref, and this time I'm going to change it to attach. Now I'm going to save the drawing, go back to our new drawing, and I'm going to, you can see that sometimes down the bottom right here it says that there's been a change to the drawing that we've referenced sometimes, so you can just left click that if that window pops up, that balloon, sorry, pops up. Otherwise, what you can do is you can select the Xref, right click on it, and click reload. Oh, ignore that. As you can see, it's now brought in that Xref. So we'll go back to the original drawing. So that's the one there that we just changed. That we changed that from an overlay to an attachment. Now if I change that back to overlay and save, go back to other drawing. Now I'll reload, and it's gone again. So that's the basics of the two differences between them. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this drawing here, and what I can do is I can unload, right clicking on that, I can unload it so it's not there. It's still referenced in the drawing, you just can't see it. Or I can reload it by right clicking and clicking on reload. We can also detach it, which I'm going to do now, so it's now not in the drawing at all. What I want to do though is I want to reattach it, so I'm going to go back to there, left click, click on attach, select the first floor plan, click OK. Now let's have a little bit more of a look at this this window here. Well, scale's pretty straightforward. You generally want to leave that at 111, so it's at the correct scale. And we have insertion point. When I first clicked on this before, it said, do I want to specify an insertion point? You could do that, but if you've correctly set up your drawings so that everything's referenced to the 00 coordinate, you'd want to left click that and untick it so it comes in exactly at 000. So if I do that and just click OK now, you can see that's coming exactly right over the top where it should be. We'll go back. What we're going to do is we're going to detach that again and reattach. Okay, so that's what that does. Now if I click on insertion point, it asks me where I want to put it. I'm just going to press escape, so I don't want to do that, and I'm going to go back to attaching. So leave that, generally I would leave that unticked. Here we looked at before, what's the difference between attachment and overlay. As I said, you can change those at any time. I generally think overlay is probably better to start off with if you're doing multiple ground floors, because you don't want to have too many ground floors piled up on top of each other. They could get confusing. Might be just best for one-on-one. Here it just tells us a bit about what the unit is that we're coming in at, which is millimeters. You can change the rotation of the screen. Generally keep that at 0. And here this is to do with path. We might get into that a little bit later. A little bit confusing. It's just basically looking at how the drawings look for on your hard drive, basically. Not really too much of an issue right now. It can be useful to set these differently depending on whether you're emailing these drawings to other people, maybe consultants or something. In that case, I'd probably select relative path, but full path is generally what I keep on when I'm just using it in the office or at home. So that's the basics of it. So I'll just click OK again. Now also, if we go up to our layer manager, left click on there, and we'll just move this over a little bit. Here we have a section here that says Xref. So, and we'll left click that little plus. That's the first floor plan, and it brings in all our layers from the first floor plan. So it's got all the same layer names as we'd have in the original drawing, but this time it puts the name of the drawing file in front of the layer name so we can differentiate it. something you can do, which can be very helpful, is select that layer and then hold down the shift key and then left click the very bottom one. Now we can left click a color and we can change it all to, well, perhaps this blue color. Click OK. So all the layers are now changed to that blue color. We can get out of there, and as you can see now, it's a lot easier to see because it's a contrasting color what actually is the Xref and what actually is our line work of our drawing, as you can see here. So as is the first floor plan over, we can see that this bit that juts in here is on the ground floor plan, and this bit here, over here, there would need to be a beam or something because that's a wall that's going straight over that opening, and there's another wall that's going over there. So it helps to really look at the structure too. So structurally you can sort of see how things are going to be. You can see how lines, load-bearing walls are, and it's quite good in that way. We will use this in the next chapter as well, when we set up our elevations and sections, and I'll show you a couple of techniques for that when we get to that. So that's the sort of basics of an Xref. As I said, it's not much more to it than that. It might sound like a scary new concept, but basically it's just drawings and a way to reference them on top of each other, on and off. So again, as I said, you can left click, right click, and click unload, and it's gone, and we can reload. Something else I'll show you here. Actually, we'll move this out of the way first. We're going to select that as our grip. Now if I left click and then right click again, something down here that says bind. If I left click that, it's going to ask me, we'll just click OK on this. Bind and insert doesn't really matter, we'll just bind it for now. And click OK. What that's done now is that's no longer an Xref. As you can see, it's disappeared from the actual window here, or list box. It's now more of a block. So if I type, well, if I bring up Control-1 key and click on that, see here it's now a block reference. So I can actually explode that, typing X, and as you can see, it's now a whole bunch of lines. So you can actually insert or bind an Xref into its actual original line work, if you like, by using that bind command. So, but it's not always recommended. Depends on what you're doing, but it could be a bit of a problem if for instance we exploded that then over the top of all this line work. We'd have a real mess to try and clean all that up, having to select all these lines individually to get rid of them. I mean, we could also turn off the layers. You'll also notice that even though we've binded it, the layers still starts with the drawing name title at the front of the layer, and it's before it puts the name of the layer. So that's the basics of Xrefs. So we'll move on from there. We'll look at drawing in our next, well, it'll be our exercise next. This is a pretty short lesson, and we'll be drawing up the first floor plan. So yeah, we'll move on to that.